Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture, The Legal Foundation of the State of Israel and the Rights of the Jewish People to the Land of Israel. My name is Moshe Bumaguin from the Center of Study of Political Islam International, Education Division. There is no doubt that this topic is very complex and controversial. Always I had partial and often incorrect information for many years. I try to get all the information from the original sources to get the correct and complete information. It has been a long work, but I finally managed to complete this research. The sources used are so many, numerous international treaties, documents from national archives, and so many other sources. I've also used the work of many researchers and several authors who have done the same great work before me. This presentation is a chronological summary of the events leading to the creation of the modern State of Israel and much more, as you will see. So, the roots of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. We can see here the Torah rolls, or the Old Testament or the Bibles. The covenants between God and the Jewish people are recorded in the Torah. It's 3,300 years old documents. And the Bible has a long history of the people of Israel. As a matter of fact, the first chapter of the Bible introduces Abraham, the father of the Jewish nation, in the land of Israel. When you open the Bible, you will find evidence of the presence of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. So you can see all these references in many books of the Old Testament, or the Torah, or the Tanakh, the Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus, and Numbers. So, the land of Israel was given to the 12 tribes who were assigned a portion of the land according to the word of God, in the promised land that we called Land of Israel or Eretz Israel. As you can see in this map, this was the distribution of the area to many tribes, to the 12 tribes coming from the land of Egypt. And you can see, you can find this reference from many books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and as well the Numbers. The borders of each of these territories were designed in writing on the Torah to let each tribe to know clearly where their land began. This was the custom of those days in the past. Here we can see another map starting from the left side, the kingdom of Israel, as you can see, and the ancient Israel. In many times, as you can see, the borders were changing. So entry of the Jewish people into the land of Israel and the first presence in the promised land. And finally, in time till the year 70, you can say again the changing of the borders of the land of Israel in function of the time, and for example during the Hashmonaean kingdom or until the Roman procurator. So let's see exactly ancient Israel and the historical entry. Okay, entry of the Jewish people into the land of Israel and first presence in the promised land. And the first temple period between 1415 and 580 BC. So they stayed there for around 420 years. Then was the exile of Babylon exiles for a short period of 60 years, more or less. And then when the Jewish people come back to the land of Israel, they built the second temple in the period between 520 until the destruction of the second temple by the Romans. And so this period was another 490 years. And so we can see that the Jewish presence in ancient Israel was more than 1,200 years. And so the Jewish presence from the year 70 was continuous to present days, excluding 19 years of the Islamic Jordanian illegal occupation between 1948 and 1967. Now we are going to talk about a word, Palestine, a word with different uses and meanings at different times and places. The name Palestine derives from the Philistines, a population originated in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, possibly from Greece or Crete, who invaded the region in the 12th and 11th century BCE. They spoke a language similar to the Mycenaean Greek language. The area in which they settled was called by the Romans Philistia. It derives from the Hebrew word polesh. Polesh in Hebrew is invader, and polshim is the plural of the invaders. Plishtim are the invader peoples in Hebrew. So the Plishtim are invaders. Hence the word, this is becoming the word. So the Roman called them Philistei, the people, and Philistea, the region or the geographical area. So the Plishtim or Philistei were the enemies of the Jews. Here we can see a map. Then you can see the area where they've been located. If we are taking the map of Israel of today, it started from south of Tel Aviv to south of Gaza, along the shoreline. So this is the location of the territory of Philistines between 1200 and 800 BCE. The Philistines disappeared under the Babylonian conquest of Nebuchadnezzar in the year 604 BCE. And since then, there is no further archaeological or documentary evidence. And they were not Arabs, but Europeans. So now we are jumping ahead in the times, and we are talking about the Roman Imperium. Rome was founded in the year 753 BCE. The empire ended 476. The Roman Empire lasted more than 1,200 years. So we all go ahead on the timeline. So Judea was one of the many Roman provinces, as you can see on the map on the right side, on the bottom. In the year 63, the Roman army, led by Pompey the Great, captured Jerusalem. The Roman goal was to destroy any vestige of the Jewish attachment to this land, which was then called Judea. The Emperor Vespasian was the emperor of that area between the year 69 and 79 AD. And here we can see a picture of the destruction of the second temple in Jerusalem by the Emperor Vespasian in the year 71 AD. To celebrate this victory, Vespasian minted many coins. And you can see on the back, on the front, the word Judea Capta. Judea Capta means Judea was captured. They won the war against the Jews. This is a very good archaeological evidence and also history evidence of the fact that the Jews were there and they've been defeated by the Romans. If you're going to visit Rome nowadays, you can find, and that I suggest you to visit Rome, of course, you can find the Titus Arch as built in the year 81 to commemorate the capture of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem by the Vespasian Emperor in the year 71, as I saw it before. If you see this arch, and you look on the right side, on the upper right side inside, you will see the spoils, including the menorah of the temple in Jerusalem. This is very strong archaeological evidence. Now look at that. We have already passed all the time since Abraham, who was promised the land to the time of the Romans. Even here, the evidence of the Jewish presence in the land is overwhelming. But there were a lot of uprising by the Jews. So the uprising by the Jews, the Bar Kokhba rebellion against the Romans in the period of Vespasian and then with the other against Adrian, it was a very strong wars between the Jews and the Roman. However, the Roman won this rebellion. And after suppressing the Jews' uprising in the Bar Kokhba rebellion, in attempt to erase any Jewish identity, the Roman Emperor Adrian, in the year 136, changed the name of the Judea province, as you remember in the coins, to Syria Palestina province, and later shortened to Palestina province. And Jerusalem was called Alia Capitolina. So they changed also the name, not only the area, but also the name of the city. Alia Capitolia is from Adrian family. The name of Adrian family was Aelia. So this new city was dedicated to Jupiter god to replace the Jewish god as a temple to Jupiter, who was built on the top of the second temple ruins. Now we are going ahead in the times, and here we start the Byzantine Empire, and it starts also the end of the Roman Empire. In the 325, they make the Council of Nicaea, Constantine the Great, the first Roman emperor, to convert to Christianity. So the Byzantine were Trinitarian, therefore Christians. And for the year 476, we can say this is the end of the empire. So the Jews were under the Romans and as well under the Byzantines. We are going ahead in the timeline, and we have the rise of the Islam. Between this year 610 and 632, we have the rise of the Islam. Now we have a new topic here. This is according to the Islamic narrative that you can find in the trilogy, in the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah. So Jerusalem was conquered by the Caliph Umar in the year 637, after the death of Muhammad, and came under Islamic rule for about 460 years. The Crusades upended the Islamic rule of Jerusalem in the year 1099. The Crusaders were from the Byzantine Empire. The Jews throughout history have maintained a continuous presence in their ancestral land. So as you can see, Jerusalem was conquered by the Caliph Umar in the year 637. Jerusalem remained under Islamic rule for about 460 years, and the Crusaders abandoned the Islamic rule of Jerusalem in the year 1099. And here we are going ahead on the timeline, and so we arrived in the period of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire started in the year 1453 and ended in the modern era in 1922. From this time, we can start to use the term sovereignty on the land, because the Ottoman Empire had a sovereignty over this land. This picture, as you can see, this is the geographical area of the Ottoman Empire at the start of the Great War, First World War. So, during the period of the Ottoman Empire, between 1516 and 1917, at the beginning of the First World War, the area that they administrated, they call it vilayets and sanjak. As you can see, there is no mention to the word Palestine under the Islamic Ottoman empires. The Ottoman did not call Jordan, the area of east of Jordan, for example, or Palestine. They call it the sanjak of Damascus, vilayet of Beirut, and so on. So the Ottoman Empire never used the term Palestine to indicate any part of the vilayet and sanjak. Now we are going to see what does it mean, the word Zionism or Zion. Okay, there are hundreds of references about Zion in the Torah or in the Old Testament, and also in the Jewish liturgy. There are hundreds of references in the Tanakh because God has chosen Zion. He wanted it as a dwelling place for himself. So Zion or Sion is a hill or is a place, is a geographical place. Zion represents the deep connection between the Jewish people, Jerusalem, and the divine presence, and is a symbol of hope and identity for Jewish around the world. It is a hill in Jerusalem located just outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem, and here you can see the geographical coordinated. And the modern term Zionism was coined in 1890 by Nathan Birnbaum. Its general definition is the national movement for the return of the Jewish people in their homeland and the resumption of the Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. This is the meaning, the modern meaning of the word Zionism. The idea and desire of the Jewish people to return to their land, Eretz Israel, or Land of Israel, formed the various modern Zionist movements in Europe. Since the year 1840, the claim of the principle of self-determination of people began to develop among the Jews. Okay, so is the legal right of the people to decide their own destiny in the international order. So the self-determination of the people is a core principle of international law. So the term Palestine, the word Palestine to indicate a geographical area, was used also by the Assembly of the Zionist Organization during the Basel Congress, because Herzl, being a lawyer, used the last known name of the territory covering the area of the Land of Israel, because the Roman Empire, they make a legal act changing the name of the Judea province into Syria-Palestina province. So this was a legal act. The Jewish Congress, the Zionist Congress, decided to use the same terminology to continue the legal act, then they can change it legally later on. Here we see Theodor Benjamin Zev Herzl. Was an Austro-Hungarian lawyer. He was born in Budapest and studied laws in Vienna. And in the year 1897, inspired by Theodor Herzl's vision of the Jewish state, he wrote this book, The Jewish State. In the first Congress of Zionist Congress in 1897, proclaimed the right of the Jewish people to revive its national cultures in its own country. So the principle of self-determination of the people is the legal right of the people to decide their own destiny in the international order. So self-determination is a core principle of international law. Here we can see the picture of the first World Zionist Congress, Basel, in Switzerland, 29 August 1897. And this is the year later, the second Zionist Congress in Basilea, in the same place, a year later. Now we are going ahead in the timeline. Again, we are going back to the Ottoman Empire. This is the Ottoman Empire. Until the First World War, they were still in power. As maybe you can remember also the Siege of Vienna in 1683, but it's another story. So, the Great War started, the First World War, between 1915 and 1918. During the First World War, they start to make a lot of political connection for the Jewish people. And so there is a very famous, the Balfour Statement from the British Empire. So this is the Balfour Statement to Lord Rothschild. Lord Rothschild was the president and representative of the Zionist Federation in United Kingdom. So it states, "Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspiration, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavor to facilitate the achievement of this object. It's being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish community in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by the Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation." And I would like to make a note, a declaration like this was made also by the French government, the Italian government, and also from the Japan government on those time. The First World War ended, the end of the Great War, and then they make a conference, a peace conference in Versailles. Versailles is near Paris, in between June 1919 and January 1920. and was the end of empire and colonization and the birth of the League of Nations. The League of Nations is an international intergovernmental organization to keep the peace around the world. This was the main objective of the League of Nations, or Société des Nations. The principle of self-determination of people is the legal right of the people to decide their own destiny in the international order, as we saw before. The right was recognized by the Balfour Declaration on 2nd November 1917 and ratified by the League of Nations mandate, which expressed explicit international recognition of the Jewish people's historical connection to Palestine. Palestine is the geographical area of the Jewish national home and their right to re-establish their national home. So to justify the concept of national home, when we can use this concept of national home, you need a connection of the people with its, first of all, the territory, second, with the language, third, with the culture and history. And the legitimization of the Jewish nation were established and recalled by the League of Nations mandate for Palestine. So we are going to Sanremo. Sanremo is a city in the Italian Riviera, near of the border of France. And here we see Castel de Vachan. And why is important this one? They make the Sanremo Conference. It was a part of the Peace Conference of Versailles. It was a continuation. And so Sanremo Conference between 1825 April 1920 was organized by the Supreme Council of the Allied major powers, Great Britain, France, Italy, and Japan, with the United States as observers, to deal with the former Turkish possession in the Middle East. So the Turks and the Ottoman Empire lost the war, and so they say, what we are going to do with their territories? And so the importance of the Sanremo Resolution adopted 25 April 1920. Let's see. The first things, for the first time in history, Palestine becomes a legal entity. All previous agreements concerning the region, CSPII and so on, are annulled, because during the First World War, they tried to make a secret agreements how to divide the huge amount of territories of the Ottoman Empire and also from the Austro-Hungarian empires. So they say we are going to deal with this only in the peace conference and not a secret. So Palestine is placed under the mandate system and Britain is a mandatory. The Balfour Declaration is recognized as an international law because it's been recognized, this declaration. The Jewish people is the national beneficiary thanks to the self-determination of the people. The sovereignty of the Palestine, the Jew, by the law, is conferred on the Jewish people of the world. So this sovereignty is given to the Jewish people of all the world. Legal title over Palestine was transferred from Allied powers to the Jewish people. The transfer of title over Palestine cannot be revoked by League of Nations or the United Nations or somebody else. The Sanremo Resolution was included in the Treaty of Sèvres, the peace between Turkey and Allied powers. So also, after the Versailles Peace Conference, they make many treaties, many conferences of peace. And so, the Sanremo Resolution was introduced also in the Treaty of Sèvres, was the peace between the Turkey and Allied powers. Arabs, Muslim, Christian, and so on, have equivalent rights in Syria and Mesopotamia. Sanremo also marks the end of the longest period of colonization in history by the Ottoman Empire. And here we can see the gentlemen that signed the agreements during the conference of Sanremo. Okay, so just a recap, the legal title and sovereignty over Palestine is transferred from the Allied powers to the Jewish people and cannot be revoked by League of Nations or United Nations or somebody else. The San Remo resolution was included in Treaty of Service. The Arabs, Muslims, Christians, and so on receive equivalent rights in Syria and Mesopotamia. San Remo also marks the end of the longest period of Islamic colonization in history by the Ottoman Empire. The Islamic Ottoman Empire was abolished and finished. And here we have a document. Of course, every treaty, every agreement, they produce a document. It's a legal title. And here we have the League of Nations mandate for Palestine. And the preamble says, whereas the historic connection of the Jewish people with Palestine and the need to rebuild their home, that has been recognized. And whereas the principal Allied powers have chosen Her Britannic Majesty as the mandate for Palestine. So the objective of the mandate, so this is a new document. The objective of the mandate is clearly mentioned in the preamble and is the result of the combination of two principles embodied in the mandate and thus in international law. So the mandate becomes an international law. So starting with the Balfour Declaration, the creation of homeland for the Jewish people. Article 22, status of the League of Nations say self-determination of the people also is a legal terminology, is a legal act. The article is strictly linked to the creation of the Jewish national heritage. And also other articles are establishing the participation of the mandate. Now we are going to see the Article 6 of the mandate for Palestine. And I remember again, this document is from the League of Nations. It's called the League of Nations Mandate for Palestine. So Article 6 says the administration of Palestine shall, on the one hand, ensure that the rights and position of the other section of the population are not prejudiced, and on the other hand, who are the other section of the population? Are the non-Jews. So everybody else other than Jews are the other section, because this document is for the Jewish. However, to maintain the rights of the other population is very important. However, facilitate Jewish immigration under favorable conditions and encourage in cooperation with the Jewish agency with reference of the Article 4. A stable settlement of the Jews on this land, including state lands and desert lands, which are not needed for the public purpose. What is a desert land or wasteland? Is a land that nobody is living there, nobody is using there. However, they belong to the Jews. So the Article 7, also it's very important to know, the administration of Palestine is responsible for enacting a nationality law. This law shall include provision formulated in such a manner as to facilitate the acquisition of Palestinian citizenship by Jews. From now on, the Jewish people are called Palestinian. This was for a period of 26 years between 1922 and 1948. So, must be clear, who are the Palestinians in that period? In that period, the Palestinians are the Jews, and not the Arabs or the Christians, nobody else. The Jews are Palestinian, because the acquisition of the nationality is reserved to the Jews. And what is the name of the nationality? Palestine. So, the Palestinian citizenship for the Jews, who establish permanent residence in Palestine, of course. Here we have a table that we can recap the laws and the articles and so on. So, on the first column on the upper side, we can see right conferred by the Palestinian mandate. And here the middle column is for the Jews, and the right column is for the Arabs. So, right to national home in Palestine, Article 2, are reserved for the Jews, and the Jews of all around the world, but not for the Arabs. the civil and religious rights are preserved for both the Jews and all the other population, can be Christian, Arabs and Muslim and whenever. So they have the same religious rights. A political representative, the Article 4 said, these political representatives are for the Jewish. It is the Jewish agency representing the Jewish population, but not the Arabs, because this mandate is for the Jews and not for the Arabs. The Article 6, immigration, is for the Jews, all around the Jews of the world. And the Article 6 is close settlement to the land for the Jews again for all the world. And the rights and position of non-Jews, this is the article concerning the rights of the non-Jewish population. Can be Muslim, Christian, Kurds, and whenever. What about the sacred shrine of Muslim Islamic sacred shrine is under the Islamic control and not the British control, because in this period was under the British administration, this mandate. Free exercise of worship for everyone, sure, and non-discrimination, of course. So there were other mandates created for the Arab population in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Kuwait. So there were 20 different mandates. Now we are talking only the mandate for Palestine. Here we can see how the borders of the countries have been changed. So you can see these two pictures between 1914 and 1923. And this was the outcome of the mandates and the treaties. And here we have what had happened with the Ottoman Empire. So the former territories of the Ottoman Empire, some of them immediately had independent states. For example, Yemen, Egypt, and Turkey. Some states under compulsory regimes or mandates. So let's start. After the war, Yemen in 1918 have the independence. Egypt in 1922. Turkey in 1923. Iraq in 1932. Lebanon in 1943. Syria in 1946. Jordan 1946. Israel 1948. And Kuwait 1961. This is the outcome of the mandates. How the Ottoman Empire, the former territories of the Ottoman Empire, became states. A map, we are going back again to the Sanremo Conference. In Sanremo Conference was decided to give two main mandates. One for the French, is called the Syria mandates, and the other one, the British mandates. The British mandates are divided by two. One is called Palestine, and the other one is called Mesopotamia mandate. The British mandates was divided into one for Palestine and the other one for Mesopotamia. Now we're going to talk about the British mandate for Palestine. This is the map of 24 April 1920, showing the boundaries of the land in which the Jewish national home was to be reconstructed. This document is very important. Please take a note. This is the title deed of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. This is the territorial solution for two states and two people, one Jewish and one Arab. The Article 25 of this document is called League of Nations Mandate for Palestine. Okay. This is the title of ownership of the land of Israel for the Jewish people, as well for the Arabs, because the Article 25 is dividing the land. So we are going to see what is happening here. Here we see the division by the Article 25. So this region in yellow, you can see, ceded by Britain to Amir Abdallah in 1921 and partitioned from the Jewish Palestine. It was called Transjordan Arab Palestine, and its territory was close to the Jewish settlements. So the Jews could not settle in the Transjordan, could not go inside this area. And so as you can see, there's a clear separation of this territory, one for the Jewish and one for the Arabs. And this is the solution of the two-state solution, one for the Jews, one for the Arab, 24 July 1922. Just to show you, I apologize for the quality of this picture, but you can see the Golan Heights. This was the map of 24 July 1922. But later on, Golan Heights are ceded by the Great Britain to the French mandate in Syria in 1923. This was a violation of Article 5 of the mandates, but unfortunately, the British made a lot of violation during their mandates. But this is another story. We see here, 16 September 1922. This is the final document with the final design of the mandate for Palestine. Mandate for Palestine has been divided in two. One, the Jewish Palestine. The other one is the Arab Palestine. So the Palestinian Jews in the Jewish Palestine. Arab Palestine is Transjordan, later called Jordan, and the people were called Jordans. So here we can see showing the area of Transjordan in which the reconstruction of the Jewish national home was to be postponed or withheld. The territory of the Jewish Palestine has been reduced by 70% of the original mandate. Here we can see the division. We're going here really just in Africa. Why? So Africa was colonized by the British, the Belgian, the French, Italian, Portuguese, by the Spanish, and some countries were also independent. So this was the situation at the end of the Second World War. Now we have to talk about principle, uti possidetis iuris. The border of the states that comes into being due to the end of multi-ethnic empire or the decolonization or international mandates will have the exact same border in the administrative unit that preceded the creation of a new state. This is the principle, is an international law. Okay, uti possidetis iuris. What does it mean? I go back to the map of Africa. As you can see, Africa was colonized by many countries, British, Belgian, French, Italian, Portuguese, and so on. So they had administrative borders. But the countries are the new countries, by this principle, uti possidetis iuris, are maintained for the creation of the new country. So from one administration to become a country, they are maintaining the same borders, unless there is an agreement between the borders between the two parties or the two countries. So this is a very important principle. So it's a principle of customary international law that serves to preserve the boundaries of colonies emerging as states. Originally applied to establish the boundaries of the colonized territory in Latin America. So, what's happened, for example, in Latin America? You know that Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Colombia, Venezuela, and so on. What's happened to them? They were colonized by the Spanish and the French and also the Portuguese. They had administration of those territories. So with this principle, uti possidetis iuris, they decide to maintain the same borders when the state is emerged and was independent. So this is a very important principle in the international law. So uti possidetis iuris has become a rule of wider application in Africa, in South America, in Oceania, in Asia, in almost every part of the world. In the same happened when the USSR became the Federation of Russia. The former Soviet Union became Russia. So also they apply uti possidetis iuris for the administration of the borders. The former countries under the Soviet administration, when they become independent, they maintain the same borders as administration under this uti possidetis iuris principle of law. Okay, with the mandate system, Africa was decolonized between 1945 and 1980 by making independent states as defining the border. So this is a little bit of history to understand the principle of the borders. Now we are going to see the right of sovereignty of the land of Israel. The right and the transfer of sovereignty in the land of Israel. How Israel became a state with its sovereignty. First of all, the Ottoman empires, they had a sovereignty between 1515 and 1917. And this sovereignty has been transferred to the British Empire as a jure occupation, was the occupied enemy territory administration. So it was a new administration on the former Ottoman Empire. And the acceptance of the provision Article 22 of the Covenant of the League of Nations, so French-British treaties for the territorial settlement, they make treaties of Lausanne and Sèvres. So they make an agreement to transfer the sovereignty of the Ottoman Empire to the Great Allies powers. The Ottoman Empire ceded its territory and sovereignty in favor to the Allied Great Powers. In Sanremo Conference, Allied Great Powers sovereignty is transferred to the Jewish people. This is the final act of the peace agreement, 16 September 1922. And this sovereignty for the Jewish people on the land of Israel or Palestine is between 16 September 1922 and 14 May 1948. And later, when Israel became a state, the sovereignty passed from the people to the state. And so, point 3, Great Britain is the guardian administration as per mandate over Palestine on behalf of the Jewish people. The provision Article 22 of the Covenant on the League of Nations are confirmed by Article 80 of the Charter of the United Nations, 1945, Uti Possidetis Iuris. Again, in San Francisco, 1945, it's ended the League of Nations, and we have the born of the United Nations. From the League of Nations became United Nations, 1945. Article 80 maintain this principle, Uti Possidetis Iuris. So, 14 May 1948, the sovereignty is transferred from the Jewish people to the State of Israel until today. Always thanks to this principle, Uti Possidetis Iuris. Conclusion. The State of Israel currently has the sovereignty of the whole territory of Israel, including Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, Jordan Valley, and Gaza Strip. As you can see, this is the map of the British mandate for the Jewish Palestine between 1922 and 1948. Those are the approved border. And also, in 24 October 1945, of Article 80 of United Nations. So those are legal border, as the legal border for Africa, South America, and other many countries. And so the Jewish population were called Palestinian in this period of the League of Nations mandate under the British administration. This sovereignty was assigned to the Jewish people from that point on and is still valid today. The Ottoman Sultanate was officially abolished by the Turkish Grand National Assembly government in Ankara in November 1922. Here we can see Palestine had a flag. As you can see, this flag then changed to the flag of Israel later on. And also banknotes of 10 lira of the Anglo-Palestine Bank Limited. But Palestine is for the Jews, not Arabs. 24 October 1945, United Nations became a new entity from the League of Nations. Article 80, what does say Article 80? Territory through international law. The United Nations Statutes of 1945, under Chapter 12, Article 80, says modification of frontiers without agreement are not permitted. So, if you don't have an agreement between parties, you cannot change the borders. This is a very important principle. What's happened here? Now we have this controversial, this very famous map. The British, that they were the administrator, they decided to end the administration. And they gave the notice to the United Nations. So the United Nations made a special committee on Palestine. The name is United Nations Special Committee on Palestine. And to resolve the political Islam problem, the problem between Muslims and Jews in the Jewish Palestine, they propose to make a partition of the land. And this was a partition. One part for the Jewish, another part for the Arabs. They tried to make this kind of solution to resolve the problem of a strong political Islam influence in this area. However, United Nations General Assembly resolution, so they make a resolution, 29 November 1947. So the British, as mandatory, couldn't resolve the violence between Islamic Arabs and Jews. They handed over their mandate to the United Nations to facilitate the solution. So the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, UNSCOP, was created and a partition map was proposed, but was rejected by the Arab League. So this map or this partition, this is not the legal base for the creation of the State of Israel. Absolutely not. Many people, they still believe wrongly that this is a valid map. Absolutely not. So when the mandate of the League of Nations ends, the future nation gains independence. This is the legal process for the birth of a nation after the mandate's period. So, for example, here we have a document, Palestine Termination of Mandate, 15 May 1948. But this document is valid for all the mandates. I put here the example for the Palestine, but we have the mandate for many other countries. And so they have the documents of termination of the mandates. So it is the legal act from the mandate period to become a nation. It is the process of the independence. So here from Jewish Palestine to State of Israel. Here we have the very famous picture in Tel Aviv, 14 May 1948, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the proclamation of independence of the State of Israel. And so here we have the documents of the independence of Israel, and it say Eretz Israel has been the cradle of the Jewish people. Here its spiritual, religious, and national personality has been forged. Here has lived as a free and sovereign people. Here it has created a culture with national and universal values. By virtue of the natural and historical right of the Jewish people, a Jewish state in Palestine to be called State of Israel. So Palestine is the area of the mandates and also of the border. So it's very clear the State of Israel in which geographical area is standing and have the sovereignty. So let's continue placing our trust in the Rock of Israel, Tzur Israel. We subscribe to this declaration at the session of the Provisional People Council and the soul of the homeland in the city of Tel Aviv on the eve of Shabbat, 5 of months of Iyar, 5707. It's 14 May 1948. So the State of Israel is born. This is the same day special edition of the Jerusalem Post. The State of Israel is born, and the New York Times, the day after, the proclamation of the new State of Israel. Okay. So the State of Israel was legally created at the end of the League of Nations mandate for Palestine in 14 May 1948. The United Nations Resolution 181 of 27 November 1947 is without any legal base for establishment of the State of Israel. So again, I say this again because many people believe that the State of Israel become a state under this resolution. Is incorrect. The State of Israel become a state at the end of the League of Nations mandate for Palestine. Now we are going to talk about principle of international law. Borders, very important. An important and fundamental principle of international border is that the border of a new state are based on the borders of the state or the administration entity that preceded it. In this case, the mandate for Palestine. This is the principle of uti possidetis iuris. This is the source of the rules of international laws, and also an International Court of Justice, Article 38. So I have a question, an open question. If there had been no Islamic invasion and war on 15 May 1948, and there had not been other wars, what would be the borders of the State of Israel today? This is a question. So, under the uti possidetis iuris, this will be today the borders of State of Israel. However, what's happened in the reality? We had an Islamic invasion. So, the night after the declaration of independence of the State of Israel, 14 May 1948, the armies of 5 Islamic Arab countries, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, crossed the border of Israel and began the illegal Islamic invasion and occupation of some part of the State of Israel, thus beginning the first Islamic Arab-Israeli war. The war they call it the War of Independence between 15 May 1948 and November 1949. So this was an Islamic invasion. Under the Geneva Convention Chapter 4, this aggression was an illegal war to eliminate the State of Israel. So Israel territories were occupied illegally by Egypt and Jordan. So this is an illegal act under the Geneva Convention. Under the perspective of the Islamic vision, or the political Islam vision, they must conquer not only Israel, but all the rest of the world. Now, let's see again, 14 May 1948, Declaration of Independence of Israel. The day after, Islamic Arab invasion. The objective, they declare some objective. First, conquer and destroy the State of Israel. No attempt to create an independent Arab or Palestinian state on the illegally occupied territory of the State of Israel. So, they did not want to make a new country. They want to destroy and eliminate Israel. That's all. So, this was a war of aggression. It's expressly illegal under international law. This is also Article 2 of the United Nations Statutes and Chapter 4 of the Geneva Convention. Then, in 1949, the two sides, Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, also as well Lebanon and Syria, they make an armistice. The armistice is a stop of war belligeration. So, they call it the Green Line or the Armistice Line. However, they are not an international border. The West Bank, what is called the West Bank, is Judea, Samaria, Jordan Valley, and East Jerusalem. They were illegally occupied by Jordan. The Gaza Strip is illegally occupied by Egypt. These are the occupied territories by Jordan and Egypt. Many times you heard the word occupied territories. Correct. They've been occupied illegally by Jordan and Egypt. Those are the occupied territories. The Jews were killed and expelled from the occupied territories by Egypt and Jordan between 1948 and 1967, a period of 19 years. They went to Rodi. Armistice lines are not border. The Green Line. Why the green Line is called? Because they take the map and they had a green pencil to draw the line of separation between the Jews and the Arabs, between Egypt and Jordan and Israel. So armistice agreements in Rodi Island, 1949, between Israel and Jordan, Article 6, Provision 9, says The armistice demarcation line, as defined in Article 5 and 6 of the disagreement, are agreed upon by the parties, the two sides are agreed, without prejudice to future territorial settlements or boundary lines. And the claim of either party in this respect. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that is not a boundary, is not a legal border. It's just a separation of the army after a war. So, we're going ahead. In 1949, admission of the State of Israel to the United Nations as the 59 member states. This is clearly a declaration of the legal status of the State of Israel, again and again. So here we have the admission of Israel in the United Nations, 1949. We're going ahead. So we are 1964. In June 1964, the jihadist Yasser Arafat, an Egyptian Arab, became the president of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. The PLO assembled, invented and deliberated the name of Palestinian people. So, between 14 May 1948, the independence of the State of Israel, and June 1964, the Arab population inside the Islamic occupied Gaza Strip, Judea, Samaria, and East Jerusalem, as many people know it as the West Bank, those people were called Arabs and not Palestinians. A name that previously was used for the Jews. The name Palestinian was used for the Jews. And the Arabs or the Muslim people maintain the name Arabs, generally as Arabs. This is very important to understand who were the Palestinians. The Jews finished to be called Palestinian on the independence of the State of Israel, so they became Israelis. But the Arabs maintained their titles Arabs. In 1964, those Arabs in the occupied territories by Egypt and Jordan, they changed the name from Arabs to Palestinian Arabs. Now we have Palestinian people. Here we have the Arab League. So the Palestinian Liberation Organization is a jihadist organization, become part of the Arab League. As you can see on the bottom, the logo of the Palestine Liberation Organization, you see the map of the Jewish Palestine, of the mandate. And so they declare, since they do not recognize Israel as the state, they call it Palestine and not Israel. And so they want to liberate this geographical area that is belong to the state of Israel. And this is the issue. So the so-called Palestinian people were only recognized by international community in 1970 by the United Nations General Assembly with a resolution 2672C of 8 December 1970. So now we have Palestinian people legally recognized as an international entity in 1970. The first time was 1964. Okay, by the PLO organization, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and then became something legally internationally recognized by the United Nations in 1970. So the term Palestinian, let's see. Today refer to the Muslim, Arab and Christian population living in Israel in the geographical area of Judea, Samaria, Jordan Valley, East Jerusalem, what is called West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. So those are the Palestinians under the civil administration of the Palestinian Authority. And now we're going to see what does it mean. We have the Six-Day War between 5 and 10 June 1967. And so some months before, in May 67, Egypt declared war on Israel, built up military troops on the borders with Israel, and closed the Tiran Sea crossing on May 67. The Tiran crossing is between Saudi Arabia and Sinai Peninsula, and so they did not give the permit for the Israeli ship to move from the port of Eilat in the Red Sea to go to the ocean. This is a violation of the international laws. So, 5 June 1967, Israeli lawful anticipated the self-defense strikes against Egyptian airbase under the 4th Geneva Convention. Why? Because the 4th chapter of Geneva Convention explain in very clear way what is a legal war and what is a not legal war. And so the 4th Geneva Convention explain very well who can make a war, who cannot make a war. So, and the country that is threatened by war must defend himself. So what's happened here in Israel? They decide to anticipate as a self-defense strike against Egypt. And this was in according to the Geneva Convention, the 4th chapter of Geneva Convention. 5 June 67, Syria, unprovoked, attacked against Israel. So this is also against the law, the international law, the Geneva Convention. And Jordan also attacked Israel, was unprovoked. So also this was a violation of the rules, despite two Israeli pleas to King Hussein to stay out of the war, because Israel says, do not start a war against us. Do not do that. But notwithstanding, they make an illegal war against Israel. So Israel lawfully defend itself. And by June 10, 1967, 6 days later, Israel replaced Jordan as the illegal occupant of the West Bank. Israel replaced Egypt as the illegal occupant of the Gaza Strip. Israel liberated East Jerusalem, including the Old City. Israel captured Golan Heights and Sinai Peninsula. So, in the 6-day wars, Israel liberated its territory that have been illegally occupied for 19 years by Egypt and Jordan in the conflict between 1948 and 1949. So Israel liberated its territory. The occupied territories have been liberated by Israel. And this occupation was illegal occupation by Egypt and Jordan for a period of 19 years. So Israel has legally, under Chapter 4 of Geneva Convention, liberated its territories that were illegally occupied by Egypt and Jordan between 1948 and 1967. As you can see here in the map, the Peninsula Sinai was conquered and the Gaza Strip was liberated. Golan Heights were conquered, and what is called West Bank, or Judea, Samaria, and Jordan Valley, have been liberated. So Israel conquered the Golan Heights from Syria and conquered the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt and put it under military governance as an international custom. Also, the Chapter 4 Geneva Convention say once you are coming inside a new territory, you must administrate the population and all the civil issues. And so, in the Chapter 4 Geneva Convention, explain what to do exactly. And this is exactly what had happened after the Second World War, for example, with Germany, with Japan, and other countries. And so Israel is doing the same with Egypt and other places. So, after the 6-day war, the United Nations make a resolution, the famous Resolution 242, 22nd November 1967. And it affirms that the fulfillment of the Charter principles requires the establishment of a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, which should include the application of both the following principles. So, there are some principles to make a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. 1. Withdrawal of Israel armed force from territories occupied in the recent conflict. The recent conflict is the Six-Day War. Point 2. Termination of all claims or states of belligerency and respect for and acknowledgement of the sovereignty. So they must stop any war and respect the sovereignty of each one. Okay? What is the sovereignty of Israel? The 16 September 1922 map of the Jewish mandate for Palestine, if you remember. Territorial integrity and political independence of every state in the area. So everyone have to maintain his integrity and political independence. This was the resolution 242. Okay? And the right to live in peace within secure and recognized boundaries, free from threats or acts of force. This is the resolution 242, 1967, after the Six-Day War. United Security Council Resolution 242, followed by the emergency session of the Great Assembly with this statement, it says also, this resolution, it is a territorial dispute and not an act of aggression by Israel. So it's reaffirming that Israel is not the aggressor. So who is the aggressor? The other part. Sure, they were the Egyptians, the Jordanian, and the Syrian. This was a fact. Okay? Now we're going 1973. Yom Kippur War was another Islamic invasion. I was living there in Israel in that period. And so Israel is attacked and invaded at the same time by Egypt in the Sinai and by Syria on the Golan Heights. And after the war, they make another resolution. And this is, again, they say that is a territorial dispute and not an act of aggression by Israel. So who are the aggressor? The other side, Egypt and Syria. With this resolution, 6 days after the 242, reaffirming its validity in all its parts, that they must live in peace and so on, as we saw before. Now we are going ahead. So, peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Here we see the famous picture between Jimmy Carter, Anwar Sadat, Menachem Begin in Washington, 1979. And so Israel started Sinai evacuation according to Israel-Egypt agreement. And if you remember, United Nations Resolution 242, in the point 1, say withdrawal of Israel armed forces from territories occupied in the recent conflict. Occupation, but Gaza Strip was liberated, not occupied, because was belonged to Israel. So what is the difference between withdrawal from occupied territories and liberation of territories? Is the point that Israel liberated its own territories and occupied the territories of somebody else. And with the resolution 242, Israel comply with the resolution and say, okay, we are going to retreat, to going back in our territories. So withdrawal of Israel armed forces from territories occupied in the recent conflict. So the peace agreement between Israel and the Republic of Egypt in 1979 is say the permanent border between Egypt and Israel, the Article 1 state, is the internationally recognized border between Egypt and the former mandatory territory of Palestine. So they recognized the map of 16 September 1922 of the League of Nations mandate for Palestine, for the Jewish Palestine. And so they recognized that the border is from the 16 September 1922. And also cartographic material attached to confirm this. Now we're going to have peace treaty between Jordan and Israel, 1994. So here we see Bill Clinton, Yitzhak Rabin, and Hussein bin Talal, 1994, Washington. So again, Israel-Jordan treaty, peace treaty. Article 3 international boundary, say the international boundary between Israel and Jordan is limited with reference to the boundaries definition under the mandate, British Mandate for Palestine, maps 16 September 1922. So again, internationally, the mandate is binding as a treaty, as also the iuti possidetis iuris, and so on. So there is no doubt about the boundaries of the State of Israel. Oslo Agreement between 1993 and 1995, Israel and Palestinian Authority, they start to make talks and peace agreement and something like that. So they call Oslo Accords, Israel and Palestinian Authority. Here we see again in Washington, Yitzhak Rabin, Bill Clinton, and Yasser Arafat, September 1993. And so what are these Oslo Agreement? Number 2 is of 1995. So they decided to make a subdivision of territories inside Judea, Samaria, Jordan Valley, and Gaza Strip, according to administrative competences. So they decide to make administrative competences inside the territories in zone A, B, and C. The agreement says they do not refer to territorial sovereignty, only administrations, but to administrative competences. The sovereignty and the territory, it belong to the State of Israel. So Israel is giving some administration, some part of its territories. The agreement do not refer to borders, but to area with different administration. So the importance of Oslo interim is interim self-government agreements too. Is interim, is not definition, is not definitive, it's just for the time being. The international recognition of the PLO as a Palestinian authority, and not national because it is not a national state. So, if you remember the Palestinian Liberation Organization 1964, now it became a Palestinian authority. So, the agreement between the State of Israel and the Palestinian Authority is that each one recognizes the other. So, Israel recognizing the Palestinian Authority. Not national, because you are going to see in many places National Palestinian Authority is not a nation, so just Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority is the sole representative of the Palestinian people, as a counterpart in the talks between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. So only the Palestinian Authority can represent the Palestinian people, only them, nobody else. Remind, however, that the Palestinian Authority does not recognize the State of Israel and the Jewish nation. Israel holds the rights to all territories A, B, and C. We are going to see what are the A, B, and C. Negotiation between parties eventually to resolve the territorial issues only in accordance with the resolution 242 and 338. If you remember the resolution of the Six-Day Wars and the Yom Kippur War, without imposition of borders by other parties or countries, or the United Nations, or the European Community, nobody can say nothing about imposition of border between the State of Israel and Palestinian Authority eventually in the future. It's only the talk between them. Okay, so we're going ahead. The Palestinian Authority, PA is Palestinian Authority, agree in the Oslo Accords that pending a permanent status agreement, so this is an interim agreement, it's not permanent, it's not final, it's just transition to something, I don't know what. The West Bank would be divided into 3 areas. The West Bank is Judea, Samaria, Jordan Valley, and Jerusalem. In area A, B, and C, Israel would retain exclusively civil and military control of area C. Is approximately 60% of the West Bank. Palestinian Authority would obtain civilian control over area A. Those are the large towns, Arab towns, and B are the small towns or villages. Israel's settlements could remain in place. the Palestinian Authority obtains no right to eventual statehood in Oslo Accord. So the Oslo agreements or accord are not a right for a statehood for the Palestinian Authority. So they cannot claim we are declaring a Palestinian state. It's not the accord. Palestinian Authority agree to pursue all remaining uses via negotiation. Only by negotiation they can resolve any problem. The situation today in the West Bank reflects exactly what the Palestinian Authority bargained at Oslo. This is exactly what they signed. So, if you are going to see the Vienna Convention of the Law of Treaties, Article 3 say, accords have a legal status, agreement between states and non-states are binding, is an enforceable binding legal agreement. So, this agreement, even if it's not a state, a Palestinian, is binding, is legal. Here we have the map, the very famous map, what was called West Bank, but is Judea, Samaria, and Jordan Valley, Jerusalem. So, in 1995, also two agreements established that administrative division of the West Bank into area A, B, and C as transitional agreement pending a final status agreement. So the division are like this. Area A is under Palestinian administrative and police control. They have the security control inside and the administration. Area B, the Palestinian Authority exercise administrative control over Area B, but share security control or police control with the Israeli Authority. What does it mean? That the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli Authority have the security control of this area. Most Palestinian West Bank live in either Area A or B. Area C, administered by Israel, covers more than 60% of the West Bank. This is an incredible map, really incredible. But this is the actual condition. To understand better the geographical area, where is the word Israel, you can see Tel Aviv, just a small, and Jerusalem in the middle. So we go on. In the year 2005, the State of Israel unilaterally handed over the Gaza Strip as an aid zone to the Palestinian Authority by evacuating all Israeli citizens residing there. This is a controversial decision, but this is the fact. Here we can see the map. On the left side you can see the Gaza Strip. On the blue dots you can see the villages evacuated and the build-up areas, and also some part in the what is called the West Bank. And so they evacuated the Israeli citizens from that area in the year 2005. So, if you're going in Israel or in any other country, you will see road signs. For example, the stop signs or the no parking signs. But in Israel, you can find this incredible sign. And what does it say? It says, this road leads to Area A under Palestinian Authority. Entry for Israeli citizens is forbidden, dangerous to your life, and against Israeli law. This is a unique road sign that you can find only in Israel and not in any other part on the planet Earth. So I tried to reach, by driving the car, the Joseph tomb. I get lost, took the wrong road, and I see this road sign. And so I make a picture. I almost enter in the wrong way. So before turning back, I make this picture personally. So it's very important to know this reality. But why is dangerous to your life and not dangerous to Arab, Muslim or Palestinian? Why is dangerous to the Jews? Why? What is behind this road sign so dangerous to one part of the population and not to the other part of the population? What kind of terrible discrimination is applied against Israelis? Okay, let's try to answer to this question. Where we can find the answer to this question? In the National Charter of Palestine. Al-Matikat al-Watanis al-Filistini. As you can see, the pronunciation is Filistini, because in Arab alphabet they don't have the letter P, and so they cannot invent a name Palestine. So, of course, is invented the word. So they use Philistine, as you can see here. So Article 9 say, armed struggle is the only way to liberate Palestine, is the State of Israel, Palestine. This is the overall strategy, not just a tactical phase. The Palestinian Arab people affirm their absolute determination and its firm resolve to continue the armed struggle, and to work for an armed popular revolution for the liberation of its country and its return to it. What is this country? Is Israel, because they do not recognize Israel. And so Article 21 of the National Charter of Palestine say the Palestinian Arab people expressing itself through the Palestinian armed revolution rejects all solutions that replace the total liberation of Palestine, the State of Israel. So it's standing very strong against all the international laws and rejects all proposal that aim at the liquidation of the Palestinian cause or its internationalizations. This National Charter of Palestine is a constitutional document, is the law of the Palestinian Authority. So there is no doubt about their intent against the Jews or the Israel. Article 4 says Islam is the official religion of Palestine. Point 2, the principles of the Islamic Sharia are the main source of legislation. So it's clearly a political Islam entity or authority. The messenger of Allah, Muhammad, said, "The last hour will not come until Muslims will fight against the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them all. And if a Jew hide behind a stone or a tree, the stone or the tree shall say loud, 'O Muslim, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him.'" And the Quran 4:89 says, "Slay the Kafirs wherever you find them." So, again, this road leads to Area A under Palestinian Authority. Entry to Israeli citizen is forbidden, dangerous to your life and against the Israeli law. This is the reason why we see this road sign in Israel. So the Palestinian people were not a people recognized as such by the international law during mandate over Palestine. So the only Palestinians were the Jews, but not the Arabs. Neither in 1947 for the partition plan that was rejected, not in 1948 and not in 1967. The Palestinian people were only recognized by international community in 1970 by the United Nations General Assembly with a resolution 2672C in December 1970. Okay? Until that date, they were Arab people indistinguishable in religion, culture, and language from Jordanian, Syrian, Egyptians, and Bedouin, which is still the case today. United Resolution 3314 of 1974 say, under international law, the territorial integrity of a state cannot be questioned by the claim of a people. So people cannot claim a territory. This is an international law. So, therefore, the Palestinian people born in 1970 cannot claim any territory retroactively over Israel. So there is no case on this case. Some conclusion. The State of Israel has sovereignty of the territory from the river to the sea, as you You can see. Each citizen have the right to reside throughout the territories. Israel does not occupy illegally Judea, Samaria, the Jordan Valley, and Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Authority has only civil administration over Area A and B. Political and public recognition of Palestinian state have no legal effect and do not change international law. You can claim, I recognize the Palestinian state, but that does not have any legal effect and is not under the international law. Only agreement between Israel and Palestinian Authority can resolve these complex issues. So the Jews are owners, not occupiers, because they have a land deed from the Bible, archaeological documentary evidence of history, but they also have a modern land title deed, the original two-state solution, Article 25, the 1922 League of Nations mandate for Palestine, in which the world recognized Jews and later Israel under international law as the rightful owner of all land, included the west of the Jordan River, Gaza Strip, Judea, Samaria, what you may call the West Bank, and all Jerusalem. There are a lot of references. This work, I read many books, many references, many articles, many treatises. Really is a lot of reference behind every slide of here. I would like to conclude this lecture just to remind that it is not a territorial issue. This is an ideological conflict, an ideological war. This is a political Islam, a war against all the humanity. And so it's not only a problem of 1922, but it started 1,400 years ago. So we can see this behavior is coming from the Islamic doctrine, Islamic ideology. It's coming from the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah. It's coming from the example of the life of Muhammad, what happened with the Jewish communities in the Arabian Peninsula. The Muhammad and his tribes kills between 600 and 800 Jews in one day. They beheaded them. So it's not only a problem between Jews, Israelis, and somebody else. It's a problem about a political Islam and Kafir. So this is a master class, an Islamic master class on how to take territories. In the history we saw from Morocco to Indonesia, the population were Christian, Buddhist, Hinduists, Zoroastrians. And just learn from these examples what is happened. So, for example, we have the example of Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Yemen, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, PLO, Palestinian Authority, Arab Leagues. All of them have something in common. They have the doctrine in common, the political Islam doctrine, this ideology. And so, my wish is that in first step to understand how political Islam is influencing our life and what is the future, what we have to do. This is something is another subject. But the first step we have to know, and we must know what does it mean political Islam. We have to understand, and we must have the knowledge about this doctrine. So please come to learn. We have many books and videos about political Islam, and we are open to any questions. Thank you so much.